Latest football news,
engaging debates
and fascinating opinions.
Pitchside Talk on IO Radio.
Hello and welcome to Pitchside Talk, and I'm Dan, and you might be thinking why I'm introducing the show today, and that's because George is not here today, unfortunately. He's been suspended due to a celebration he did to VAR. Very naughty thing that George did. So today we've got an interesting show coming up for you. We're going to be talking about Ipswich, of course. 2 games to talk about today, so very interesting stuff. It is against Accrington Stanley, game last Saturday and also Tuesday yesterday against Oxford United, and I'm also going to be talking about the Premier League as well. So yeah, interesting show today. Let's get into it.
Stay up to date with the latest footy news.
Pitchside Talk on IO Radio.
Yes, welcome back to Pitchside Talk on IO Radio, and now I'm going to be talking about Ipswich versus Accrington Stanley that happened last Saturday. It was an important game for Ipswich actually because we'd gone into this game on quite a poor run. I think it was 1 win in about 15 games. So yeah, very important game for Ipswich going into this one at Portman Road. So we came out 4-1 winners, which was great performance. Great game really. 3-0 up at half time. Fantastic stuff. The first half we were absolutely brilliant. I think we bossed the match pretty much. Accrington didn't really have a chance in that first half. So yeah, fantastic performance all round. And I asked some questions to George, as he can't be on today. I asked him some questions about the games. If I can get them up, they're not going to work. But yeah, 4-1 the game finished. So, fantastic result for Ipswich to get out of this poor run. I've got the questions up now. So I asked him what his thoughts on the Accrington game was, and he said it was a fantastic performance by Town. They look like they've refound their incredible form, which they had from the start of the season. I agree, definitely in the first half of that game. Absolutely blown away their opposition in Accrington. But in the second half, some of their problems slowly crept in, some dodgy defending and lack of concentration. We kind of dropped back off in the second half, I think. I don't know what it was. I guess we were 3-0 up already, so just sat back, let Accrington play a little bit, but they didn't really have anything in the way of chances. I know they had a penalty, but yeah, not great Accrington were. Overall, brilliant performance by Town, George says, and ITFC adopting the football that Sheffield United play. Yeah, that was very surprising. We played Chambers and Wolfenden as centre-backs that really go forward. We've played that a couple of games now where Chambers and Wolfenden really play attacking football, and it was brilliant to see. They both got assists. Wolfenden assist for the first goal, then Chambers done a cheeky little back heel for Judge in the third goal. That was a brilliant assist. So yeah, love that system we're playing. I hope we can really push on with that system as well. So I asked him how important was it for Ipswich to win against Accrington at the weekend, and he said it was very important for Ipswich to get back to winning ways after a poor run of results. The drought of not winning since November and September at home was fantastic to end. Also, only 3 points from top with a game in hand. Well, this was at the time that we didn't have a game in hand. We did have a game in hand, but we don't anymore, which I'll get onto later on. But yeah, I agree. Very important for Ipswich to get this win. I think, we haven't won it so long that we're going into games thinking, we're not going to get a result from this. But, fantastic. Let's go and get the win at Portman Road. So the drought is over, and now 3 points from the top at the time. We're actually now 2 points from the top. But hopefully we can push on from this win, from these results this week. So yeah, good stuff. I also asked him, James Norwood is now on 10 goals for the season, double figures. He's top goal scorer in England for the last 2 seasons. I think he's got more goals than Aguero, actually. So, yeah, that's massive. But, yeah, I asked him how important was James Norwood for the team after he scored that delightful chip on Saturday. Fantastic stuff. And George came back and said he's been very, very important for Town, as Town suffered without him in the squad. Like at Accrington in October, that was our first loss. of the season, actually. So yeah, hasn't really pushed on from them, but he's back, it looks like. Blackpool in November, as he's so strong for his size, and he's able to hold up the ball well, unlike Caden Jackson. Yeah, I think that's why they play so well together. I think Norwood is very good at holding the ball up and, annoying the defenders. I think he's like Joe Garner in that sense, that he can really annoy the defenders and hold the ball up well, and link up with Caden Jackson, who's very good at running in behind with his pace. So yeah, I think that's a great partnership. And yeah, that goal was incredible, he says, and yeah, fantastic. He can't score tap-ins and clear chances, but he can score a scream like that. It's very strange, but yeah. I also asked him about Wolfenden leaving, where he's been linked with a move to Sheffield United for $3 million. That was a surprise, and that kind of came out of nowhere. We knew that Lee O'Neill and Marcus Evans were looking at maybe cashing in our youngsters. I don't think Lambert really agrees with that, but we were looking like we wanted to do that. But Wolfenden linked with a move to Sheffield United after what happened yesterday, which I'll come to. It doesn't look like we want to sell him, but this is what George said. Luke Wolfenden is a quality centre-back for Ipswich, and if he leaves in January, Ipswich will struggle with their promotion run. Yeah, I agree. $3 million is a good starting offer for him, as he's only 21 and he's playing League One football this season. Don't really agree with that. I think he's worth more than $3 million, but that's okay. Ipswich need to do everything to keep him for the rest of the season, as he's a very important player in the squad. And yeah, he might consider this offer in the summer if they don't go to the Championship. I think Wolfenden will probably really like going to Sheffield United. They're doing so well in the Premier League at the moment. I don't know if he'll get game time there, because they already have quite good centre-backs to start with. But yeah, it'll be a good move for him, I think. But we don't want him to leave. So yeah, that was kind of what George had to say about that game. But I also asked him one more question, which was, can I get your mid-season prediction for where Town are going to finish in May? Because it's very interesting. A couple of weeks ago, we were 7 points behind Wickham, but now it's only 2. So it's still very close. Rotherham are now top of the League One. So it's all very close in there at the moment. So I was asking George where he thinks Ipswich will finish. He said it's a tough question, as Ipswich, their form has ups and downs this season, but he thinks that we're going to finish second. Oh, that makes me nervous, that. I don't know if I can say that we're going to finish second, but I don't know if I'm confident at the moment. I'm going to say we're going to finish third this year and hopefully win the playoffs. That's what I'm hoping for. So yeah, that was a great game on Saturday, and we'll go on to the next game on Tuesday after a few more songs.
Pitchside Talk on IO Radio.
Yes, welcome back to Pitchside Talk on IO Radio, and now we're going to be talking about the game that happened yesterday. But before I do that, I'm just going to mention our social media. We have a Twitter account, obviously. We do polls and stuff on there. That is @_talk_pitch, if I get my words out. We've also got a YouTube channel that's just Pitchside Talk. And yeah, all of our previous shows are on there. We've also got Instagram, which is talk_pitch as well. So definitely check them out. So yeah, on to yesterday's game now. Actually, before I do that, it is the January transfer window at the moment. And Ipswich have signed a player, which is not expected, actually. I thought we were going to go through this transfer window without a signing. But Ipswich Town have made a signing. We've signed Josh Earl on loan from Preston until the end of the season. And I think this is an okay signing, actually. I think, Nsiala left, actually, to Bolton as well, on loan until the end of the season. So this is just back up for him, I think. Josh Earl can play left back, and the left side is centre back as well. So I think he fits into our system and he'll be good for backup in the end. And I also asked George about this signing of Josh Earl, and he said, looks like a very interesting signing, as he can play centre-back and left-back. I don't know if he'll cover for Garber if he gets injured, as it looks like Lambert doesn't have faith in Kenlock. or he is a replacement for Toto Nsiala, as he's gone out on loan from Bolton, as I said. But he says it looks like a good signing by Town, so let's hope he can stay fit. Yep, let's hope so, because Ipswich have a history of getting players in and then getting injured. A history of injured players. That's what we have. But now we're going on to, I'll say, an eventful game, even though it did end 0-0. I think, looking at the performance, I think it wasn't a great performance from us. I don't think it was a great performance from both teams, to be honest. But I think that is to do with the conditions. Yesterday, the conditions were awful. You know, this Storm Brendan that's come in over UK really affected the game yesterday. The pitch, the middle of the pitch was completely flooded. It was muddy. The ref had to actually stop the game on about 25 minutes, I think. You know, we had a 5-minute break. So they could, you know, get their forks out, stab the ground. Hopefully it dried up. And it did dry up a little bit going into the second part of the first half. And the first half, 18 minutes added on, which was never ever seen that before. So that was interesting. But yeah, I think the performance wasn't great because of the conditions. It was pouring down with rain as well. So the conditions of the pitch were terrible. So the ball wasn't really moving at all. So we'll say that performance was on the conditions of the pitch. But I asked George about the game yesterday. I said, thoughts on the game and Town performance. He said it was a solid performance despite the tough conditions they faced last night. Should have had a penalty after Norwood was fouled. Yes, we should have done. You know, the Oxford defender, it looked like he grabbed him round the neck, pulled him down. I think it was a WWE move he tried on him there. But, yep, the ref didn't give anything. And, you know, the ref admitted, well, according to Lambert anyway, he admitted after the game that it should have been a penalty. So, yeah, not great refereeing again in League One, of course. But overall, solid point to get away from home against promotion rivals. Yeah, decent point. I probably would have taken a point before the game, but obviously I would have preferred 3 points, as that would have put us joint top, actually. So, but I'll take that. We go into the game on Saturday, if it goes ahead, in good spirits, I think. And Tranmere, definitely a winnable game. George says he's also very concerned about Caden Jackson because he didn't actually start yesterday. He wasn't even in the 18, so that was very worrying. Keane came in to replace him. Don't get me wrong, that's a good replacement, but Jackson and Norwood up front has been deadly this season so far. So, yeah, bit worrying to see Jackson not in the side. Apparently, I think it was a calf, or something like that. I'm not quite sure, but yeah, he has been linked with a move away, so that was a little bit worrying. I also asked, do you think the weather and the conditions of the pitch really affected what could have been a brilliant game? Because it was third versus fifth, and both these teams are really good attacking teams, so I thought it was going to be a really, really, you know, thrilling game. Didn't turn out that way, and George agrees. He said this could have been a thrilling game, as it's third versus fifth, and a big game for both sides, as either one could have made massive games, with ITFC going joint top and Oxford going third. But Storm Brendan ruining what could have been a very interesting game, which was a bit disappointing, to be honest. I was hoping it would be a really exciting game. I also asked him, you know, the refs stopped the first half due to pitch being in poor condition. There was lots of people on Twitter moaning about this, that the pitch didn't really look that bad and the players were still playing on, and Chambers looked like he wanted to keep playing. But George says because the centre circle was like a swamp, he thinks that it was the right decision to stop the game. The ball was struggling across the midfield. They allowed the groundsman to come on and fix the pitch, so that was a good thing. And yeah, right decision was made. And I agree. I think it was pretty impossible to play on that pitch yesterday until they had that little break. So yeah, good decision from the ref. And now we're looking to the weekend. I asked him, with the Tranmere game looking unlikely to go ahead, what are your score predictions if this goes ahead, and for Lincoln at home next week? We'll probably be talking about that next week as well, but I wanted to get his prediction just in case this Tranmere game didn't go ahead. But he said if the Tranmere game goes ahead, he thinks it'll be 3-0 to Ipswich, which is a very, very big prediction actually. But Tranmere are struggling. Yes, they are in League One and they're involved in a relegation battle. So we can definitely go into this game, if it goes ahead, with confidence and see if we can get the win. At the moment, it's looking unlikely that the game is going ahead, yeah. So Lincoln, a very important game. Lincoln are a tough side. You know, we've had history of Lincoln before, so it's a very tough side. You know, the FA Cup embarrassment, really, a couple of years ago under Mick McCarthy. So we've played them 3 times already this season. On the 29th of December, that ended 5-3 over the Christmas period. So that was a big game. But he thinks that game is going to be 2-2. He thinks it's going to be a draw at home to Lincoln City. Fair enough. I think it will be a tough game against Lincoln, but yeah, we'll talk about that more next week. Going back to the Oxford game, you know, we played the same system again, which is very, very rare for Paul Lambert to do. I think this is the first time he's kept the same squad, basically barring 1 or 2 changes this season. I think it's 3 games now we've played the same system, so it's really good to see that he's actually maybe got a best team that he really wants to pick every week, and that's what we've been screaming out for. I think all these changes over the Christmas period and before that as well, really, you know, it really affected the team. You know, Chambers admitted that he doesn't like all this changing. So yeah, brilliant to see that he's doing the same system over and over again. I really like that he's doing that. And I also wanted to talk about Luke Garber, because he got player of the month last month in December, and I wanted to think about if he was going to sign permanently. I really want Luke Garber to sign permanently. I think he's been brilliant since he's come in at left back. You know, he can play left wing as well, but he's been fantastic. I think he's been one of the best loans since Lawrence and Fraser. You know, we used to get left wingers on loan all the time that were really good, but Garber has been a brilliant player so far. So I really think we should look at signing him permanently. You know, he's out of contract at Everton at the end of the season. So, you know, there's a chance that we can do that. I really think we should look into that. So yeah, that's basically what happened last week. That's all the Ipswich talk for this week. And I'm going to play a couple of new songs for you, and then we're going to be talking about the Premier League.
The best place in Ipswich to hear the latest football debates, Pitchside Talk on IO Radio.
Yes, welcome back to Pitchside Talk on IO Radio. And before I get into Premier League action, I need to remember to mention that you can find us on Twitter at talk_pitch, and also Instagram as well on talk_pitch. And you can also find us on YouTube. Just type in Pitchside Talk and you'll find all of the shows that we've done so far. So now I'm going to go on to the Premier League, and it was another interesting week in the Premier League. Lots of goals to talk about, so I'm going to go through the games that happened during the weekend. So we're going to start on Friday. Sheffield United beat West Ham. They carry on their fantastic form, but I think this game was probably overshadowed by another controversial VAR decision. I know we talk about VAR a lot on this show, but yeah, really, really controversial on this one. So West Ham equalised in the 92nd minute or something, and it was disallowed for handball, and you know, it was brought back by VAR. And after I look at it, it was an awful decision. So what happened was Declan Rice came forward with the ball. I can't remember what Sheffield United player it was, but he headed it onto the hand of Declan Rice. He wouldn't be able to move his hand at all. You know, there was no way he was getting out of that. So to give handball for that, I think it's ridiculous, really. I just think VAR really needs to stamp down on and be consistent with their decisions, because they're just not consistent at the moment. You know, some other VAR decision will they'll give that as a goal, and it's annoying how inconsistent VAR is. So I don't know what they can do to sort this out, really, because it's getting ridiculous now. How many decisions go against teams for the smallest of things, like armpits being offside and things like that? It's just too close to call, and I really don't like VAR. I don't know if you noticed, but yeah, not something that I want in the game. But I asked George about this disallowed goal, and he said he disagrees with the decision as well. He says it's ball to hand. There's no way Rice can move his arm out of the way of that. So he thinks West Ham should feel cheated by VAR. Also, VAR needs a major review in the summer to see how it improves, so these controversial decisions don't happen again, like hands being offside and things like that. And yeah, I agree. And also, I don't know if VAR is going to be used in the Euros. I'm assuming it is, but we need to look at it before that, because this big tournaments need to sort out VAR. It worked okay in the World Cup. There wasn't too many controversial decisions I can't remember that really stands out, but yeah, really need to sort VAR out. So we're going on to Saturday now. A few games. Crystal Palace versus Arsenal was the early kickoff. Arsenal continuing their bad run of form. They brought in Mikel Arteta. He's come in, hasn't done brilliantly. I wasn't expecting him to do brilliantly. I don't think it was the right decision to bring Mikel Arteta in, because I've said before on the show, I do not like it when teams decide they're going to have legends as their managers and I think they're going to do brilliantly. The same with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I know Man United are fifth at the moment, but I don't like it when legends go and manage their teams. Frank Lampard's doing good, but still don't like it. But yeah, Arsenal draw 1-1 at Crystal Palace. Good result of Crystal Palace. They're doing quite well at the moment, actually. I think, let's look at the league table. They're 9th at the moment, so they're safe from relegation. I know it's very close in the mid-table and relegation battle, but yeah, Crystal Palace get a well-earned point at home to Arsenal. Chelsea, they win 3-0 at home to Burnley. I'm sure Piers would be happy about that. So yeah, good result for them, and you'd expect them to win at home to Burnley. I know Burnley usually are very good defensively. They're not having a very good season. They're 4 points off the drop at the moment. So yeah, it's quite close around there. So we'll see how Burnley do as the season goes on, but good result for Chelsea. Everton, they get another win under Ancelotti, a 1-0 win at home to Brighton. Richarlison scoring the winner. That was a good result for him. He's done quite well since he's come in, actually, I think. You know, Everton had a pretty awful start to the season under Marco Silva. I think he should have been sacked earlier, to be honest, but, you know, that's how it goes. Marco Silva stayed until December. So, yeah, Ancelotti's come in. It seems like he's brought life around the club again, and they've been getting points, and they've risen up to 11th in the table, so they're doing well under Ancelotti. So we go to Leicester now, and this was an interesting one because earlier on in the season, I don't know if you remember, but Leicester won 9-0 away at Southampton, which was the equaling record win in the Premier League, the record away win in the Premier League. So we were expecting Leicester to come into this game and win the game easily, but Southampton come out of the blocks and get a 2-1 win away at Leicester, which was very, very surprising. But Southampton, they seem like they're getting their rhythm back. I don't know what it is. They had a really poor start to the season, but they're now 8 points from the drop. They've been getting results lately. So I think we were saying on the show that Hassan Hootel should be sacked, but now he's improved the squad immensely, and now they're joint points with Arsenal, which is very surprising, but great result for Southampton at Leicester on Saturday. Next we go to Old Trafford, where Norwich, bottom of the table Norwich, travel and lose 4-0 to Manchester United. Manchester United, easy win for them. Norwich are in trouble now, I think. You know, they're on 14 points. What is it? It is 7 points off Aston Villa in 17th, so it's looking desperate for Norwich now. I really don't think they have enough to stay up this season. We'll see as the second half of the season goes on, but it's not looking good for Norwich at the moment. And I asked George, do you think Norwich will survive this season, now being 7 points off safety after their loss at Man United? He says, personally, Norwich do not have enough to stay out for another season, as they've been hit with some injuries this season, which doesn't help. But they have been very inconsistent this season. Yes, they beat Man City, which sounds so strange to say when they're losing to Burnley in the next game. They need to start thinking about next season and fight for promotion in the Championship. So yeah, it's not looking good for Norwich. But Manchester United, another win. They're fighting for top 4. Still, they are 5 points off Chelsea at the moment. I don't know if Man United have been able to get into the top 4. I think it's possible because Chelsea, they've been a little bit inconsistent recently, losing points, but I don't think Man United have enough at the moment to get in the top 4. We now go Wolves versus Newcastle, two teams that are not really playing for much. I know Newcastle, they're 6 points off. Saying that, Wolves are 3 points off 5th, so I take back what I said. But yeah, Newcastle 6 points off the drop. Steve Bruce has done a fantastic job there. I think at the start of the season, I was like, nope, Newcastle going down. Awful appointment by them to get in Steve Bruce, but he's done brilliantly. And I think the main goal for Newcastle for this season was to stay up. So I think recently he's done a great job, and I think Newcastle definitely have enough to stay up this year now. I take back what I said at the start of the season. Wolves, they're doing it okay. They're 3 points off 5th, yes, but I really don't think they have enough. I think Europe is going to affect them even more. Obviously, they're in the Europa League, so I don't think Wolves have enough to get into the top 5 this season, but point at home to Newcastle. I don't know if they'll take that or not, but yeah. So the late kickoff in the Premier League on Saturday was Tottenham versus Liverpool, and what a surprise, Liverpool won 1-0 away in London. So I asked George, surely Liverpool are now home and hosed. They've played 21 games. They've got 61 points. That is mental. 61 points. I cannot believe that. They are now 16 points clear at the top of the table with a game in hand as well. So massive win for them. And I just think they're home and hosed now. And George says if they keep up this form, they'll be Premier League champions in May. I don't think anyone can stop them at this moment. And I definitely agree with that. No one at all can stop Liverpool from getting that title. So we go on to Sunday. There was a few Sunday games in the Premier League at the weekend. We start with Bournemouth versus Watford. Interesting game because this is a relegation 6-pointer. Surprised to see Bournemouth down the bottom, to be honest, but this was a massive, massive game for both clubs. And Watford come out of the box and win 3-0 away at Bournemouth. I'm very, very surprised by that. Nigel Pearson, he's doing his job again. He's fantastic at keeping teams up. So, yeah, he's doing brilliantly. And Watford, they're going to stay up this year, I think. They're out of the relegation zone now after this win. So, who knows? I know it's still close around there, but do Watford have enough to stay up? I really do think they do. But going on to Bournemouth, they've been in an awful run of form, and that shows now that they're in the bottom 3. They've been a staple in the Premier League for the last few years. They've been brilliant. I think it was only like 7 or 8 years ago that they were in League One. So they've done fantastically, but it's not looking good for Bournemouth at the moment. And I asked George, Bournemouth are now in the relegation zone, do you think they have enough to survive this season? And he says, what's happened to Bournemouth this season is really surprising. They've hit so many injuries this season, which they're still suffering from. But some big players are not performing, like Callum Wilson and Ryan Fraser, who they have to rely on to get goals. And Ryan Fraser, I know how good he is. When he was at Ipswich, he can create. So yeah, it's bad that they're not performing. Eddie Howe is quality young manager, and he has a bright future ahead of him. But he's facing a massive task, which could have huge consequences and repercussions if relegation happens. I don't know if they will sack Eddie Howe if they go down. Because, Eddie Howe is loved there. So, he's a legend at Bournemouth. He's been there all of his life. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. George says they do have enough to survive, but the players need to perform as soon as possible, or they're in big trouble. And I think I agree with him. I think they definitely do have enough to stay up this season, but they really need to rely on them quality players to get them out of this rut, I guess. So now we go on to Aston Villa versus Man City, and an absolute rout from Manchester City gets them a 6-1 win at Aston Villa. Massive, massive win. And they were 4-0 up at half-time, which was mental. I think Aston Villa fans were leaving on 28 minutes, which which I can't believe that was happening. But yep, 6-1 it ended. Manchester City, they've had an okay season. It's not been great. They've fallen behind Liverpool, and Liverpool just run away with it. So, I don't think Man City are really playing for much now. I think they want to get second. They'll get second, and they can't catch up with Liverpool now. So, yeah, good, massive win for them. And it's just that they can't catch up with Liverpool, so they're just going to have to play the rest of these games in their shadow, I'm afraid. But Sergio Aguero becomes the leading overseas goalscorer in the Premier League. He's overtaken Thierry Henry, which was absolutely mental. He scored a hat-trick in this game, and he's one of the best strikers the Premier League has seen, definitely. Don't know if you can compare him to Thierry Henry, though. Aguero's a goal scorer, but does he have the technical ability like Thierry Henry does? I'm not sure about that. But fantastic for Aguero to get this record, and he will only push on from this as well. But Aston Villa, I said at the start of the year that they would have enough to stay up this season, but it's not looking good, is it? I still do stick with that. I think that they have the squad that can stay up. They have a decent manager in Dean Smith. He done brilliantly for Brentford in the Championship. He moved to Villa. They went up with him as well, and he's a great manager. But their players aren't performing. I don't know what it is. They spent lots of money in the summer. They really did, but it's just not clicking with them at the moment, and they're really in trouble at the moment. They're now in the bottom three, but I'm going to say that I still think they have enough to stay up this season, and I guess we'll see as the second half of the season goes on. So that is the Premier League roundup, and I am going to play a few songs, and then it's going to be the end of the show, I'm afraid. But let's do it.
Pitchside Talk, footy debate from the Premier League Outback.
Yes, welcome back to Pitchside Talk on IO Radio, and unfortunately it's coming up to the end of the show. But before I go, I wanted to mention a few bits of news in the football world, and something quite funny happened yesterday to do with the FA Cup. So Coventry, they had Bristol Rovers, I believe, in a replay in the FA Cup, and they won 3-0, and they got drawn at home to Birmingham City. And if you don't know, Coventry are ground sharing with Birmingham at the moment. So Coventry are at home to Birmingham, so Birmingham are having to have the away end at their own stadium, which is absolutely mental. I can't believe this has happened. And surely they must have thought that this might happen at some point, but yeah, it's a bit mental to see that they're going to have to be in the away end at their own stadium. And another bit of news, about 4 or 5 hours ago, Tottenham have completed the loan signing of Jedson Fernandez on loan from Benfica. So interesting stuff. Tottenham wanted to sign some players. Jose Mourinho really going for it. They were linked with a permanent move for him. I think it was around 43 million for this Benfica midfielder, but it's a loan move to Tottenham, so interesting stuff. It'll be interesting to see how he does going into the second half of the season. Also, one more thing, Paul Pogba is likely to leave Manchester United in the summer, reports say. We probably were expecting this. I mean, Paul Pogba, I think he's been out of favour really. He had a bit of an injury, but he's been linked with Real Madrid and Juventus, according to Sky. So it says he'd prefer to join Zinedine Zidane's side in Spain. So maybe he'll go to Real Madrid in the summer. That'll be some interesting movement, because I feel like Paul Pogba hasn't been his best at Man United. We know the quality, and Manchester United fans know the quality that he has, but he hasn't really kicked on at Manchester United. So I think that this move to Spain will be a good thing for him. But he's also been linked with a move to Juventus as well, back to his old club. So yeah, we'll be interested to see what happens in the summer regarding him, and the fee it'll be, because it'll bound to be quite a lot of money. So unfortunately, we've come to the end of the show. It's been good show, I think. It's been a bit weird being on my own, but yeah, George is going to be back next week. So I guess we'll see you next week. Make sure you check out our Twitter and Instagram. They're both at talk_pitch. And check out our YouTube as well, Pitchside Talk, where you can listen to all of the shows back. And there'll be one uploaded later on last week's because I've been lazy and haven't uploaded it. But yeah, thanks for listening, guys. And I'll see you next week where George will be back. See you later.
The whistle has been blown for full time. Tune in next week for another jam-packed show.